18 months on, Black Summer's destructive path is still etched into the landscape. Across this stunning mountainous countryside, charred tree trunks and burnt structures catch the eye. But for some, it's a certain silence that reveals this part of the world still hasn't fully recovered from the inferno. So Terry, this is where your family of robins used to visit?
Yep, if you came out here this time of the year, you would always see robins on the fence line in this corner, family of 5 or 6.
And you haven't seen them since last year?
Last winter and this winter, not a single bird.
Over the last 22 years, he's identified around 80 species of birds, and nearly a quarter of those used to make his place a temporary home.
Sometimes they'll come in, you can encourage them to come down and check it out. I'll see if it works. Well, it does make you sad because if you like birds, you don't like seeing them disappear, and they're just beautiful birds. And you could see them every time you went out in the paddock. You knew exactly where they were, and now they're gone.
When the bird populations rebuild, Terry's property will remain their haven. He's been revegetating to ensure every visitor flying in has a spot to nest.
For all the small birds, it's a matter of creating habitat. They need habitat, and they need this habitat that they like to be in, not just plant gum trees, but small bushy trees for small birds. So the migratory birds, we've just got to wait and see what happens, I guess. The whole populations wouldn't have all been wiped out, so they'll build up again, and I guess they'll come back. Whether it'll be in our lifetime or not, who knows.
The fires spared Tony Jarvis's home, but burnt everything else. But things are looking much better now.
We've still got about 2 kilometres of boundary fence to go, which is making one area of the farm not particularly usable. But that's fine. We haven't been overly stocked, so we've been managing around that. We've got the cattle yards and everything back up and going. Got a couple of sheds built, so we've actually got some storage facility for things again.
High cattle prices have slowed restocking. But he bought 60 heifers, and with 2 rounds of calving, Tony's beef operation is now 2/3 of capacity.
Adding some adjustment cattle into that has sort of made the farm reasonably well stocked. And given that we've had a couple of reasonable seasons so far, it's meant you didn't have to stress because you weren't overstocked.
Across the Upper Murray, finishing the fencing remains one of the biggest jobs on many farmers' lists. But here in Cudgewar, the last 2 kilometres of Tony's boundary fencing is in a bit of a tricky spot. This track was cut into the hillside last year, where a century-old boundary fence stood until it was razed by the fires.
Well, I don't know when it was built, but how they managed to build it through some of that country really does amaze you, because it's very steep, very rocky.
It's like an epic job.
I don't know whether we want to drive up there today.
I don't particularly want to. Controlling the explosion of invasive weeds that occurred after the fires, particularly blackberry, has kept landowners busy. But thanks to this new road, Tony's better able to control its spread.
Having that access now will allow us to actually maintain that area a whole lot better than we have previously.
It's been the kindness of Australians that initially helped the region get back on its feet. How important have donations been in the wake of the fires and the recovery process?
Hugely important. I mean, for just keeping your morale up, to think that other people are thinking of you, therefore, in what wasn't necessarily an easy season for anybody, people were donating stuff.
Housing remains a significant issue. Most homes burnt in the fires still haven't been replaced. With long waits for council approvals, COVID restrictions, material shortages and difficulties sourcing tradies slowing the process. Terry and Shirley Forrest finally have a foundation that represents concrete hope for a new home.
Yes, it does. It's a new beginning for us.
Since the fires, they've been renting a house with Terry's brother and sister-in-law in Corryong.
Certainly hasn't been quick,
No.
but it's been a different process. And my mum always said to me, have a bit of patience, boy, and I think that's what I've got to have.
The bushfires destroyed 38 homes in the region and damaged a further 20. The small Towong Shire Council received 90 planning applications after the fires, mostly for sheds, and told Landline 13 of the 14 housing applications have now been approved. But now getting the homes built is proving to be another slow process.
We're in the process of getting some electricity on here, and when the fires went through, the electricity gave priority to anyone that was burnt out, and that was only for 12 months. So the 12-month mark came around and nobody had started to build. I'd like to be here for Christmas. That's what the family have planned, is Christmas in the new house.
Everyone having drinks on the
Alfresco, that's exactly right. I've already stood there and had a drink on the alfresco.
Got to manifest it.
Yes, yes, that's right.
Many here have had the stress and trauma of the fires compounded by the isolation endured by Victoria's COVID restrictions. Mental health workers like Kate Wheeler have been working hard to maintain connections in a community, still coming to terms with the events of last year. Kate, this is everything you've been up to for the last 15 months or so, right?
Yes, with a very busy little team. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned here is that being able to talk about what happened is like the digestive juice, the trauma, and there was so much trauma in this area.
The National Blue Tree program, which aims to promote conversations about mental health, is one Kate and the team are keen to promote. And in a region with many trees scarred by fire, it stands out.
I think the blue tree symbolises hope and it symbolises life, like it might be a dead tree, but the brilliant blue and a message on a tree, lots of people look twice when they see a blue tree in a paddock.
How's the VAX program going? $900,000 in Victorian government funding has been directed at mental health programs in the Upper Murray. Initially, demand was for counselling services. But now there are growing inquiries for food vouchers, firewood and assistance paying utility bills.
I think it always goes back to the fires. I don't think people have actually had time to heal in any shape or form, and I think it will be a long time before they do. We have a mental health dinner once a month here, just for people who are isolated. That's been named Kate's Kitchen.
Events like this one weren't possible for much of last year, but with the latest lockdown over, Kate's Kitchen is back in full swing.
I did hear from some of the men in the district that a lot of things were aimed at the women. They had lots of crafty things happening in small groups. So some of the team came up with the idea that we call it a bloke's night out. And so we just do it for the men and feed them well, let them have a drink and let them get together and talk.
Events like this men's dinner have been so important for communities in the wake of the fires. But COVID-19 restrictions have made planning them difficult. And those restrictions have also shut the pub and cancelled community sport for extended periods of time. That's why, as you're about to see, when all else fails, it's friendships in these communities that have often been life-saving.
Well, I couldn't cope without Kim. So she's always there, she's always helping,
I owe her big time.
Not
She
really.
saved my life.
When Landline visited this property in January last year, the enormity of what had just taken place was too much for Vicky Jarvis.
It was very, very difficult. Unfortunately, I had a little incident in the paddock with a cow and it just...
Wind her up. Big time.
Yeah, kind of had a little bit of a meltdown and then I got banned from the paddock.
Vicky's trauma is still raw.
Kim's helped me through a bit of a dark stage, very dark stage, and got me some help, which was good, got me back on the right track.
Help in the form of donated hay and donated time from Blaze Aid volunteers has helped rebuild fences and keep stock alive. And vets from the Victorian Department of Agriculture spared them from one of the most emotionally difficult tasks they faced after the fires.
We were starting to put them down, and they said you can put the first 10 down, the second 10 down. Once you hit 40, it's going to get hard. We're experts. We do this. Let us do it. Best choice.
The farm and Vicky are in a much better place now. Her cows are doing well, and there are plans to build the herd back up. But in the future, they'd like to see better infrastructure in place for the community.
Some of the things that have come out of this is the need to have better communication because everything went down. Having systems where you can have a handheld UHF and call up everyone in the valley as a health check, stuff like that.
Rebuilding better is the main aim of keen recreational fisher Shay Bloom. Pristine creeks and rivers were choked with debris after the fires, and burnt out vegetation along banks destroyed important fish habitats.
My eldest son summed it up and just said, "This is one of the saddest things that I've ever seen, Mum." And I said, "Yeah, you're right, it is."
The community has used state government funding to restock the region's waterways. And a community project was launched to revegetate the banks and provide shelter and refuges for the fish.
It does feel good, yeah. And especially getting our kids involved, you know, planting a tree and getting dirty and, you know, just getting out into nature.
In every valley, on every farm, and in every community in the Upper Murray, it's connection that's helping people recover from the fires.
It's really fulfilling that you're not only helping the community, but you're also helping your environment.